QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Sales by customer, account, and item graphs. Let's get into it with Intuit's QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Here we are in our Get Great Guitars file. We currently have the open windows open. You can open the open windows by going to the view dropdown, selecting the open windows list. We're now going to be taking a look at graphs related to the sales or revenue items, which of course will be supporting one of the major financial statements of the balance sheet or income statement. This one, the income statement, or the profit and loss statement, supporting the top line item of sales or revenue. Let's open the income statement first by going to the reports dropdown, company and financial. Take a look at that profit and loss, the P&L. Change the dates up top from 01/01/21 to 02/28/21. So we have our income up top, so we're looking at the top line item, revenue or income, as opposed to the bottom line item, which would be the net income. Now, up top, we could make a few different graphs if you were to think about the income line item. We could make a pie chart on just basically the line items of income, the categories of income. In our case, equipment rental, guitar lessons, sales, and service. Now, most companies, however, will have a fairly small list of actual accounts, meaning we might have just one account called sales if we sell like inventory. And therefore, there's not much to do with a pie chart in that case unless we have multiple different categories that we sell. We will not typically have a lot of different categories or too many different categories because we don't want to get into the further breakout for things like breaking out on the income statement related to clients. I don't want to account on the income statement saying, here's the sales to my number one client, line item on the income statement, because I'm going to have a supplemental report for that. So then we can have another pie chart that would be related to our clients, sales broken out by clients, that would line up to our subsidiary report, breaking out sales by that added detail by client. We also do not want typically a bunch of different line items on the income statement for sales related to specific services or inventory items that are sold, but rather have a separate report that has that information, and we can make then a pie chart based on that information as well. Instead, we have the overall groupings of what we do. Equipment rental, not listing out actual equipment items, but rental in general. Guitar lessons, not listing out the type of guitar lessons or, who's the guitar teacher per se. That'll be in a supplemental schedule, just guitar lessons in general, sales in general, and then service in general. So first we can think about a pie chart. QuickBooks has one related to the income. We'll take a look at that. And then a pie chart breaking this out on the subledger by customer, and then breaking it out by item, what we sell. So let's see where we can find that. Reports drop down. First pie chart by just the account totals would be under the company and financial, and we would go down to the graph down here. There's going to be a graph, income and expense graph, or you could find that by going to the reports drop down, report center, maximize. I like to maximize the center here. Standard tab, company and financial, and then scroll down till you see like a pie chart like thing down here. So there's the pie chart, income and expense. I'm gonna run the pie chart report, and then we'll change the dates up top so we can see stuff in it because there's nothing in it right now. 01/01/21 to 02/28/21, and we'll say OK with the blue button. And I'm focusing down here on the income on the pie chart. Notice we can toggle back and forth between income and expenses. We're focused on income now, revenue side, top line of the income statement. We'll take a look at expenses at a later presentation. And we have this, so I'm going to go to income. And then we have this broken out by the line items we saw on the income statement. Sales, guitar lessons, service items, equipment, and so on. So if I go back to the income statement, pull out the trusty calculator, we have up top the top line items adding up to that 56,524 plus bottom line. We also have this other income down here, the gain, 250. That's where the number's coming from. So if I go back to this item, there's our total. So once again, nice report. Probably not too interesting for most companies. It'd be more interesting to break it out by who we sold to possibly, or what we sold, service and income items. So let's take a look at those reports next. Also note that if you were to present this report, then obviously you would want to know where the data came from. So run the report with the data, which would simply be the income statement. So you could show and tie out just like we did with the calculator there if someone asks. And then we're going to break, and also note that if you export this to Excel, like the income statement, and then break out and then use Excel to make the pie chart, you have a whole lot more flexibility. We'll do that in the following presentation. So now I want to go back to the data that we would need in order to break this out by customer. Let's first open the report that we would basically look at. So if I wanted to look at this by customer, I could go to the reports drop down, and we want to go to sales meaning income or revenue, top line of the income statement. And I want to look at the sales by customer summary. Sales by customer summary, changing the date up top from 01/01/21 to 02/28/21. And that adds up to the total of the 56,144. If I go to the income statement, we have the 56,524. The difference between those two, as we saw in a prior presentation, the 56,144 minus the 56,524, 380. If I double click on not the service item, but this sales item, that's due to the fact that we have adjusting journal entry. So that's why there's a difference. We'll talk about that later. If there's a difference on your reporting, you might want to know what that is. Again, someone might ask, and if you're presenting the thing, then you want to know what the difference is. So we'll talk about adjusting entries later. It'll all make sense. We'll have a reversing entry, so it'll fix itself as well. So in any case, we're going to go back to the sales item then. So that's going to be the data that we can have, and you can see it's broken out now by customer. So this is the sub report that gives us all that more detail and gives it by customer. Now, if we wanted to make a pie chart, then of course we can export this to Excel and generate a pie chart from it and have a lot more flexibility. We'll do that in a future presentation. But let's see what QuickBooks provides us for the default pie chart. We can go to the reports dropdown. We can then go to the sales item, and we could say, they have their graphs down here. So we can find it there, or we can go to the report center. We want to go to we're looking at the sales, which is like the top line of the income statement, revenue. That's what you're thinking when you see sales there. Sales graph, that's the one we want. Let's run it. Run that report. And there it is. Let's change the date so it looks more interesting to 01/01/21 to 02/28/21. And then blue button OK. Blue button OK. And then we got the pie chart down below. And this is broken out it's currently by item. And you have a toggle up top. I want to see it by customer. So by customer. So there we have it. The key on the right showing us the customers. It breaks out, I think, the top 10 customers, and these are in percentage formats, then groups everything else into other after that point. The 56,144, does that tie out to our report? Sales by customer, 56,144. Yeah, the 56,144, so it's being generated from this data, in essence. Back to the graph. And so there we have it. So it's a nice graph. Notice again, it's kind of, it always puts like the biggest portion to the back. And then in the front, it has the lower portion. So it's actually expanding these lower portions with this 3D graph. So if you wanted to rotate the graph and do other things and not have a 3D graph, have just a normal graph, then you can do all that stuff in Excel, and we'll do that in a future presentation. If you wanted to provide this data to somebody in like a PowerPoint presentation or something like that, or put it into your Excel file so you can put it into one PDF file and provide it to somebody, we could then say, well, what if I had like a PowerPoint that I wanted to put it in here? Here's our mock PowerPoint. And we could just use the cut and paste feature really to get it into the PowerPoint. So I'm just going to make a new tab down here. I'm just going to say I want a new one. And then I'm going to have QuickBooks here. And then I just want to cut and paste here and cut and paste the key. And that should be good. So I'll say, all right, let's go here. I'm going to insert. I'm going to do images, and you always have this drop down somewhere in the Microsoft Office products, PowerPoint, Word, and Excel. I'm going to clip it. I'm just going to say, I just want this thing. Bring that over. Did I get it all? I think so. So I'm going to get that, and then I want to make it large, and I want to get rid of the white background if I can, because it's on a black thing. So I'm going to go to picture, remove the background. And then like you remove too much. So I'm going to say keep some of this stuff because you took too much out. Like this thing is part of the picture. I don't know why you couldn't figure that out. This whole green thing, that's part of the picture. So I'm going to keep that. And I want you to keep this. This is all clearly part of the picture. So I'm just going to tell it, not to delete that because that's totally obviously part of the picture. It can be a little finicky, as you can see here, so I'm just kind of trying to tell it. I mean, I feel like it should know this. It's probably because it has this giant green area up top. Anyway, that's good enough. So I'm going to go, there it is, and there it is. So then we can cut the key. So I'm going to say, let's do the same with the key. And so we'll cut the key. There's the key. I'm going to cut it so it fits in the door, cut in the key. And there's the key. So we could then align this as we want. So we get some flexibility, not a whole lot. You can do the same thing in Excel. So what if we wanted to say, well, let's do that like in Excel so that I can then print it out. Here's our financial, and I want to print it out on one PDF using the cute PDF printer and our Excel. So I might then go in here and say, okay, I'm going to add a new tab so that I can then print this all out on one PDF file if I get this all exported in Excel. And then I'll do the same thing. I'm gonna open up QuickBooks, make sure it's right behind my Excel document, and then I'm just gonna go to my insert, and you have in the illustration group that same little scissors clipping tool. So we'll do the clipping tool again, and I'll just say I want this, I want to clip that, and then I'll bring that down, and I also want the key, so I'm gonna go back and insert the key. So I'm gonna say give me the key too. If you would, I'll clip the key because that's important. Pie chart doesn't make any sense without the key. So I'll pull that over. And then I might want to say, okay, how does this fit on a page? So I can go to the page layout. And so there it is. And then I might put a title up here. And this is going to be sales by customer. Sales by customer. And then back to the first tab. And there we have it. Now I can see where the page line is, so I can make this larger. I could still, if it was a different color, I could still do the cropping tool here, but I don't need to because there's a white background, but I could still remove the background and do that whole thing. And so there it is. And then if I wanted to print this out, I can go to the File and Print. And then if I wanted to print my entire workbook, show the preview. Here's the entire workbook so far, and I still have these beginning tabs I need to delete. But I have my balance sheet, and I can just export this to one PDF file now. And this is one way you can use that graph to have a nice graph. So here's our graphs that we've been putting together. And here's the latest one. The latest, and I'm not sure the greatest, but that's the latest. So I'm going to close this back out and save that. So then if I go back over, now the next way we might want to see this, if I go to the profit and loss, is we might want to say, let's break this out by what we sell, items, the item list. So remember when we made the item lists drop down, we had what we sell, service items, and inventory items. I can break them out by what we sell. So to do that, we can go, all right, I'm going to go to the reports drop down. You can go to the sales item, and it's the same graph, and you can go to that same graph, right? It would be located in the same graph. So let's open up the graph. I don't need to go into it again. Sales graph. So this is sales by customer. Now let's just change it to sales by item now. Just change it on over. Sales by item. So there we have it breaking out the same information by what we sell. In our case, guitars and service items. If this is being generated from a report, the report is reports drop down, sales, and this is going to be sales by item. So I want to break out the sales by item summary, and then change the dates from 01/01/21 to 02/28/21, and there's our sales by item. So we're concentrating on this column. We broke it out inventory and service items with the 56,144 as the total. If we go to our graph, there's the 56,144 breaking it out, and once again it breaks out the top 10, and then it puts everything else into this category down below. Now if you export the report like this report, then you can do a bunch of different graphs. Like you can graph it out between total inventory versus service items, and then you can break out basically the inventory items within themselves if you so choose, and the service items within themselves. So you can see what's our most popular service items in a pie chart versus our inventory items in a pie chart. A lot more flexibility if you export the data, and we'll do a little bit of that in a future presentation.